Chara, how are you doing today?
I'm doing good. Looking forward to this.
Yeah, me too. I was going to say you're one of the most known Splatoon players, and I've been recent. I watch basically all of your videos. And I just saw your most recent video on the new maps, and I'm curious: are you currently able to make Splatoon your or like content creation your full time job? Is that in the works for you?
It's definitely something I'm thinking about. Like, it's a possibility if I really wanted to, but at the moment, no. I'm still a college student. I work a part-time job in addition to anything I do here.
Wait, so you're a college student and you're also working a part time job and you're playing Splatoon at the level you play at?
Yep.
Oh, that's I know how rough that gets. Okay, fair enough. That's incredibly impressive. But you think it's possible though that you could just live off of YouTube?
I'm not entirely sure. It seems possible, but it's something like sustainably, if I did that long term, I'd have to look into that way more. That's a very big decision to make.
Yeah, no, for sure. I'm not trying to make it on the spot, but it's a huge sign that like how big the channel's gotten. A lot of people have found competitive Splatoon through you. And speaking of that famous player part, do you feel like people look up to you? Do you ever get the impression that like you are famous in the Splatoon community, or like does it not hit you all the time?
Um, I mean, it's kind of hard not to notice at times. Like, I mean, I've definitely gotten comments about that a good bit, and it makes me happy, of course. It's still like obviously it's just in the small niche of competitive Splatoon is where I am really well known. But yeah, I guess in this kind of sphere, then yeah, I feel like I'm pretty well known.
Yeah, you also have the power to ratio anybody accidentally or intentionally.
Yes, and I hate it.
What was your favorite Splatoon tournament or land? Something that just the first one that comes to mind that you will never forget.
PAX would be the main one from 2019, the top four NA championship. That was just really fun to go to. I got to hang out with a lot of people in person for the first time. Like, I got to meet up with Zero, Ice, Shaq, a bunch of others, and of course, my own teammates again. So, all of that was amazing. The event was cool. It was nice to, like, officially work with Nintendo to some degree. I'd say that Smash and Splash 5 is a very close second, though. I love that venue. There were a bunch of people that I got to meet there that I didn't see at PAX because it's not an invitational. It's close between those two, but I'd probably give PAX the edge right now.
Fair enough. And that Smash and Splash venue is amazing. The only Splatoon land I've gone to, of course, is the most recent Big House. And I'm looking forward to more of them because every time I go back to the old VODs, I'm like, oh, that looks fun. That looks like a good place. That looks like a good time. So, Last Resort is your latest team. What level would you put your team at in terms of like skill?
It's hard to say. We had a bit of a rough start when we started in Splatoon 3. We had like a bit of a set strat with like bamboo and stuff like that. And basically how we played had to completely change with Splatoon 3. And after the first month or so, we took a while to really test a bunch of different strategies and weapon compositions, and that's led to our results kind of going down quite significantly. And we've also had a bit of a roster change. We've picked up Havoc recently. Uh, Right now, it's hard to say. In practice, we've kept up with top teams very well with what we're doing right now. The only tournament we've competed in, though, like since we've gotten stable and had a strat we were doing, is the NA Open, which only has one result not in Turf War, which is a 1-3 against DNA. It was definitely a close set, but I think that on its own isn't enough for me to kind of give it a definitive placement. So I'd say, like, at least at the time of this recording, I'm not quite sure. I think we're on a good path. In practice, we're doing very well, but practice and tournament results are different things. I definitely say we're still at top level, obviously, but in terms of how we stack up against some of the better teams, I'm not entirely sure yet, and that's something I think we still have to figure out a bit more. Hopefully before the next Open.
Yeah, and I'm looking forward to watching you slam into some of those other top teams. And how often does your team, or how often do you, first of all, train a week? I should ask.
I If I had the time and my wrists weren't terrible, I probably would play a lot more. For the most part, I try to play twice a day for most of the days of the week. Sometimes that's just not feasible because of schedule. So it kind of varies, but I try to get in a decent bit of individual practice in comparison to team stuff. And as for team practice, we try to play around 5 times a week, maybe six. We've been playing a lot more recently, but I'm not sure if it'll always stay this consistent. but we do try to make sure we're at least somewhat consistently practicing. So yeah.
No, that's awesome to hear. That was a lot more than I expected, actually. And I've played on like competitive teams for various games, but that's a very dedicated schedule. I like to hear that. I wanna bring up one of your recent tweets. Bro, how the heck did we play Rainmaker with Stingray in Splatoon 2? Rewatching tournament sets with this thing looks absolutely miserable. I don't know how we dealt with this for like 5 years. Actually insane. How is the Splatoon 3 meta in comparison to Splatoon 2 as somebody who played competitively in both games?
As a whole, I like it. I think there's a lot of good strats and different ideas that can work, especially since the update introduced quite a lot of weapons like Custom Junior, Carbon Roller Deco, T-Tech, even stuff like Zimmy and Bucket Deco that are actually kind of good against the current meta. Well, maybe not Zimmy as much, but Zimmy can still compete. Uh, so I think there's a lot of good off strats. I don't particularly like Crab meta. I don't hate it either. I think it's just a bit stale, really. Like, it gets stale very fast because for the most part, Crab is just two splash. Two splash every comp gets old. And I think Crab is a bit stally. But, like, between that and Splatoon 2's problems is, like, literal night and day. Like, I don't really hate the meta or anything. It's a little old, but it's, like, whatever, and it's going to change in a month. I don't care that much. And then Splatoon 2 actively has, like, half the specials in the game prevent you from playing. It's just so much better. Still, like, I think there's a wide variety of strats that work. I like how the game feels as a whole. I like the pace of it a lot more. The special design is still way more fun to play, and especially since Missile's gone toned back. So, I mean, even this meta, which I think is probably arguably the worst one we've had so far, I would say is still miles better than literally every single Splatoon 2 meta that has existed.
I came in very late into Splatoon as a commentator, and Splatoon 2, it was I saw what was like really magical about the game at a competitive level, but also there was a Stingray in like every match. There was armor.
You can see what holds it back. Like, you can definitely tell, I think.
Yeah, it's pretty obvious. But then I also have a question for you. How does Splatoon 1's endgame meta compare to Splatoon 3?
Splatoon 1 endgame meta is somewhat interesting because, like, it's just quick respawn running in and, like, very powerful main weapons with very broken specials. Honestly, it's kind of hard to say. I'd say Splatoon 3 is more fun right now, but I'd say, like, if you really like that style of play, like, Splatoon 1 endgame meta pushed a style of playing the game to the extreme. Like, quick respawn and aggression is the entire thing. It is so individual skill dependent. It is so hold forward dependent. So, like, if you like a hyper aggressive meta, then Splatoon 1 meta is probably going to be more fun. Splatoon 3 definitely has strats. Like, QR strats are actually a thing in this game. Like, they're really good. But it's still, like, the extreme of Splatoon 1 is still by far, like, way different than this. I would say Splatoon 3 is better overall, but again, if you really like that style, then I could see why you would like Splatoon 1's more.
Yeah, there's nothing else like it.
Also, it has maps. Like, real maps. That's kind of
cool. And then final question, would you ever pick up Brella again if it gets a meta relevant kit?
Probably not. I never really was set on dropping Brella because of the state it's in. Like, Brella's terrible right now, but that has nothing to do with it. I've said multiple times at the end of Splatoon 2 that I'm not going to play Brella in 3 because it's not consistent. I played Brella for about 5 years. There are actual tournament games that have been lost because of dying through shield, especially fighting European themes and European chargers. It happens a lot. And that's not the fault of those players. It's the fault of the game's netcode. But that's the thing. Like, it's a factor outside of the competitiveness of the game. And, like, lag can affect everything, but how it affects normal Brella is, like, significantly worse. And until that's fixed, I think for the betterness of myself, and especially for my teammates who have to depend on me to get these results, it would be unfair to them to play that weapon. I get that's kind of extreme, and if you're a competitive player who wants to use Brella, go for it, that's fine. But after 5 years of Brella at top level, that has been my stance. I still play the weapon casually. It's still fun. I still think it's amazing to play in, like, a casual sense if you like the weapon. But competitive-wise, unless if it was literally super broken, I would have no reason to play it, and I probably wouldn't do it.
Is there a weapon that you think is kind of being slept on right now in terms of players aren't using it enough or haven't fully realized its capabilities, and maybe less so at the highest level play, maybe more in ranked?
No, it's Wiper. It's easily Wiper. I do not know why there are not like 10 Wiper players at top level Splatoon. Like
Oh,
I
really?
don't understand why Arashi's the only one playing it. I think it's literally because people are too lazy to actually look into the weapon. It is a Tetra that has the ability to actually break objects, that has paint, that has a special that can prevent HP specials from being panic, that has a much better sub, especially for the role. Like I don't know if it's a lack of understanding the weapon, a lack of understanding how QR comps actually work, or interest in them. I don't know. I guess there's also like barely any Tetra players, despite how good that is. So I guess a weapon that's similar but much newer than Tetra would be also in the same spot of being underused. But like, it's literally a meta full of crabs. If you have Wiper being a QR weapon that's also the best weapon at countering crab in the game, why the hell are we not playing more of it? There's two crabs everywhere. Just play Wiper. Go shred crabs for free. It's fun. Go play it. I will have a whole video on this thing. I don't know if it'll be out before or after the interview, but I'm literally doing an entire video on Wiper because I am so unbelievably dumbfounded how few Wipers there are. I legitimately think the weapon is potentially like, well, I think the weapon's easily top 10 right now, potentially top 5. It's kind of stupid.
Whoa. Okay, fair enough. I'm glad I asked that question. So, Chara, thank you so much for taking some time for the interview today, and I look forward to seeing more of your tournament play.
Thank you so much. I appreciate being on here.